Hey guys, back with another Maple Story video here. This time, I wanted to do a little bit of a different Lotus breakdown from a different point of view. I have my recorded run right here from my point of view. This is from 5:15. So I'm recording this on Sunday, and so this is last Monday, and our only run this week or last week. And I want to just kind of walk through our thought process, some things that we improved on, some things that we kind of learned in phase one. Our team actually did a really good job pushing through phase two in this run specifically. We actually survived, did a good job with death counters up until kind of a certain point. I think it was about 240 into the fight. We had about 9 lives left. So we did a really good job surviving. But you'll see in this run, our DPS sort of is lacking behind. And I think I'm going to talk about things that we learned, lessons learned, and we're going to try to improve on next runs. And I'll try to post all of our runs as much as possible to, I don't know, show Damien, probably, hopefully, kind of help others that are trying to clear or trying to practice or trying to learn Damien, so that they can, kind of get ahead of it and learn from our mistakes, learn from things that we tested and tried so that, you guys don't have to make the same mistakes that we did. So we'll jump into it right away. And if you don't know, Damien right off the bat is more like Magnus than it is Lotus. What I mean by that is there's a set rotation of skills. You can actually go in solo and practice individually on your own, kind of learning rotations, learning just what to do, how skills work, what kills you, what doesn't kill you, when you should use your iframes, your defensives, practicing blink skill, which is very vital. You'll see us use it. One of the V skills that is crafted, how important that skill is. And yes, if you tried Damien solo, just going in by yourself, practicing rotation versus going as a 10-man team, it's completely different, right? 10-man is much more overwhelming. There's some things that you just can't replicate in solo content. I get it, right? I get it. But what I say to people is that if you're going into a 10-man run blind, without practicing solo, without knowing rotation, without knowing how kind of just anything, what's going on, it's going to overwhelm you even more. It's just going to be with 10 people, everyone running around, kind of not knowing what they're doing, on top of trying to predict what's going to happen next or trying to react versus anticipate skills. It's just not going to work. You're not going to be as effective and as successful and help the team as much as possible if you're just kind of going in blind and learning on the fly. So I highly recommend people, just like Hard Magnus, learning the rotation as best as you can, at least knowing when to use your defensive cooldowns, how to counter certain attacks. And you'll see, for me, I do certain things for certain skills. I'll talk about it overall, but let's kind of jump into it and kind of show things that we've learned. So right off the bat, this run seems very fast. Yeah. So right off the bat, one of the things, the first skill he's going to do is what we call rotted. So we see this sword that's flying around in the middle, sort of right here. It's going to target random people 3 times, I think. And then the last one, it's going to drop this rotted area. So it's right here on the boss. And so it's going to detonate. So you can see it explode right there. And we already had someone die. So you see it explodes kind of on a 2-second timer. And so it's a one-shot. One of the few one-shots in phase one. And this is sort of the biggest killer. So he does rotted area. And then, so what I did immediately right off the bat was try to stun. And so this allowed us just to avoid rotted and maximize our DPS. See, my stun is on 54-second cooldown. So it's a 10-second stun. And the thinking behind using it right away is, one, to maximize DPS. All we have to do is avoid rotted and nothing else is going to happen. And I tried to skip the next skill, which is his dash skill. And why I wanted to skip that skill was because it sort of pushes us into the corners a lot of the times. And a lot of the times it pushes us right, and he dashes right into the skill wheel where we can't see him. So trying to skip that skill allows us to just keep him in the middle and keep him where we can see him, and allow us to just maximize uptime. So you see it's stunned right now, 1 person death, not that big of a deal. And we're all just maximizing DPS, kind of predicting the dash was coming. It didn't come. So that's good that it does skip a skill. But so now he just teleported, and then he's going to use his popcorn skill, which is, the meteors from flying above. You see people are flying here. That is utilizing the blink skill. That's one way to do it. And then so we're going to jump back on top. So that's kind of the first initial rotation of skills. Then he's going to dash. So this dash, what I'm talking about in phase 1 is this galaxy kind of background that happens right here on the left side of the screen. That is the indicator of dash, which way he's going to dash. So he's in the middle and he's going to dash left toward our bishop right here. So everyone's on the right side, or I jump up, dodge it, he dashes to the corner. So that's one indicator of what he's going to do for the dash. So that is, it's not going to one-shot you, but it does create branding. So one of the skills we just want to avoid altogether, stacked with getting hit by the sword. Watch out for the rotted right there. That's going to fall. And then he's going to dive right here. So you can see him. He's kind of in the top left corner. You see his eyes showing up. He's going to dive in the direction that he wants to. So we all just avoid it. That's pretty easy to block in phase 1. Avoid the rotted. So we're all doing a great job right here. And one of the most important things that we try to focus on, we notice in this run, we're trying to improve on next run, is positioning. You see how we're all in the middle, kind of stacked on each other. During this period, this really allows us to maximize our DPS, to control where the rotted is going to go. And so you see the rotted falls right on top of us. Not a big deal. We all move. We avoid the dash at the same time, right? And we all survive. One person died, not that big of a deal. But this is sort of where it gets a little tricky, where some people are in the left corner. Some people were all stacked right here. But then he's going to teleport, unfortunately, to the person that was in the left corner. So we all try to move back, and then he does his popcorn. So not that big of a deal, but something we're just trying to looking at, right? Positioning and noticing Career Maple Story, those teams that actually have cleared, and like right here, we're kind of all over the place, right? This is something that we talk about where we lose track of the boss, and obviously I did as well, was where the boss ends up in the far left corner off the screen completely, and everyone's trying to get back there, avoid rotted, and just lost uptime, right? Lost uptime, and then we get caught in this black smoke, finding the opening. And this is where I use my Synchro, my iframe right here, because there is a time frame. This just allows me to avoid 2 black smokes. So you'll see the black smoke right here is at 10:30. Let's see, sorry, a little bit farther. So it's going to move across, and the black smoke's going to be like 8:35, sorry. So around 8:35 right here, and then we'll push ahead, and then it's going to show up a dash, and then it's going to do its black smoke again. So just avoided 2 black smoke skills in that one synchro. So great value, in my opinion, on that. Allowed us uptime. And so we're about 2 minutes in, and we're doing a pretty good job surviving, right? We have 10 lives left. I think we take this 1 life right here, so 9 in 2 minutes in, and we're about 50%. So feeling good, feeling like in a good place, but in actuality, we're a bit behind the DPS, right? So the threshold to get into phase 2 is about 30% left of Damien's life, and so we're about 50, right? So this is sort of where things get a little challenging, because as you can see, our branding stacks are getting high, right? So around 4, 3, 4, 5, some of us, and this is where it just gets, kind of overwhelms us. So you're about to see what I'm talking about in a minute. Rotted's kind of in the middle of the map. It's going to dash right. And so that was one of the things that I did a poor job on. I was looking back on it. I was the aggro in this instance. So you see how our team is split up in half are in rotted, half aren't. Half are on the left of the rotted, half are on the right for the boss. And I'm the aggro right here. And I personally feel like I should have forced this dash left back into the middle. Because you'll see in a little bit, it's going to dash right, and it gets stuck behind this skill wheel. And I just don't like that. It feels very clunky and awkward, and it's hard to see. And you see right here, rotted going to fall, and everyone is just out of the picture, right? I'm still in the right corner, but everyone else is kind of out of range almost, it feels like, right? Especially the melee damage dealers. So it would have been better in this situation for me to try to dash it back into the middle, just allowing us uptime. more options. See people on the far right that are getting hit by black smoke, or they get cornered with black smoke and rotted, have no chance of surviving. I end up using my res iframe there to survive, but overall, just poor positioning on my part as the aggro. Getting him to dash the wrong direction kind of put us in a bad spot. And it may not seem like a big deal because no one died, but for Damien, especially in phase one, how quickly we get through phase one is very vital. There's sort of a timer, like I mentioned, that you'll see someone has 6 out of 7 stacks right here. And once they get 7, it's kind of real downhill from there. It really snowballs real quick, very quickly. And so uptime is extremely important. Positioning, maximizing damage is huge, right? Going from a 3-minute clear to a 2.5-minute clear is kind of the difference between maybe 9 deaths and 2. So you see what I'm talking about in a bit. Like I mentioned, 6 out of 7 stacks right here. We're doing great with mechanics, surviving, right? We're trying to get back into it. Again, some people are on the left side of the rotted, some people are right on the boss. And so there's our first. So this icon rated brandy completed. Damien's corruption is building. That basically means someone got 7 out of 7 branding. And yeah, it's pretty obvious it's Shani in this run, but you'll see that it's going to be everyone in this run very, very quickly. He was just unfortunately the first person, but he's definitely not the only one, right? So the reason why this is so important is see all the flying swords around. This is what creates multiple rotted. And you'll see people die to dash, and then people are going to get branded completed again right here. So there's going to be 3. See, there's 2 swords right here, 2 rotted areas. There's going to be a 3rd one coming up, and it just gets really overwhelming very quickly. And we just went from, and this all happened in about 40 seconds maybe. So this is 723. 723, and at 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds later, we got 2 rotted, half our team is down, and it's not going to look any better from here on out, right? So, everyone's down, our lives are going to go quickly, we're going through our red cycles, and it just kind of overwhelms us very quickly, right? And this, in my opinion, is something that we talked about, something that we're trying to figure out. Is should we have use the black altars here, right? To try to avoid our stacks, to try to remove all of our branding altogether. And we argued, I said, we just need a little bit more DPS and we'll get through it. See branding corrupt again. So we're just going to see right here, rotted is just going to overwhelm the map. People just have nowhere to place to go. And other people obviously said, use the black altar, right? Remove that branding. And we'll go through it in a little bit. I'll talk about it. If we could have even done that in this fight, but you'll see it's just crazy, right? We're all stuck in the corner, just trying to find an open place to DPS. Dash is going on, more branding, more deaths. Death count is going to go down real quick. Sanko pretty much saved me right here. And I'm pretty much just going to, whoever's alive is just trying to push it through phase 2. I stun it up just to maximize DPS, even though everyone's dead. And we push it through phase 1 right here. So still, it looks like a success, right? I don't want to say like we played poorly because we did it. This is like a, less than 5 buffs runs that we've done, right? Overall in the last few weeks. So we've done a great job getting to phase 2 consistently. Damage, and obviously I'm not really worried about us, right? This is great progress. All progress is, progress. But it's still, we can always learn, we can always get better. I just don't want the team, people to kind of get complacent, right? I feel like getting to phase 2 is good enough because I'm gonna be honest, if you don't know anything about Damien, phase 1 is like 1/10 of the fight. Great Maple Story is clearing that in about 90 seconds, and they're still taking the entire almost 10 minutes to clear Damien. Phase 2 takes a really long time. So I just don't want people to feel like, we're ahead of the game, because even though it may seem like we are, where phase 1 feels very like a small piece of the pie, right? So there's things that we can still clean up, in my opinion, but we'll talk about phase 2 right here. So phase 2, we come in 10 out of 10, 0 death counters, right? So first off the bat, you'll see this kind of blue orb right here. And how so the blue orb, basically, if it's following you, if you're near it, it's going to do you only do about 20% damage or 10%, something like that, a small percentage of damage. So you want to, avoid that. And how who it's targeting, it's just basically following someone And so right here on the DPS tracker, it's aggro is knuckle, right? And Frenchies is the one that the orb is following. So you want to avoid Frenchies, and Frenchies wants to kind of keep Damien, keep the orb away from the rest of the team, right? Just position yourself away. And right here, I want to talk about this skill right here. So this is one of the first skills that he does in phase 2. So this is the dive skill, right? And in phase 1, he does this dive skill, but if you see this angle that he's taking in phase 1, he'll just take this angle right here because that's the way he's facing. But in phase 2, it's random. So it may face that way, but it's definitely not going that way. Snipes 3 people. And that's, that's something you either know or you don't know. We obviously know now, but I know in Korean Maple Story, they actually use their blink skill to fly up and avoid this skill altogether. So maybe something we'll utilize and we'll implement. And then the next thing is he's going to teleport. So this is, again, phase 2 is another rotation of skills. I just have to kind of have a good idea of it. And then he's going to dash. And then the issue with dash in phase 2 is there's no galaxy animation like I talked about in phase 1. It's just straight up, when it's coming, reposition behind it, and you'll just see kind of the sword. He's going to lift his sword up right here slightly, right there, charge it up, and dash. And you see everyone just kind of got smashed right there. One shot. And the issue with phase 2 dash is in phase 1, it does 90k HP, 90k damage. In phase 2, it does 190k. So pretty much everyone's getting one shotted, even with Absolab. That's kind of the biggest issue. Right now, HP pool is a huge talking point. But one of the biggest reasons why we can't, people aren't really pushing very far because they know that they're still getting one-shotted by this. They have no way to anticipate it or expect it unless you know the skill rotation. So people aren't really pushing this very hard because they know this is sort of a wall that they can't push through. But as you'll see, we kind of kept going with it, whoever was just alive, just to see what the skills look like, right? There's always value in seeing these things. There was another dash right there. I just had Sanko up, so tried to avoid that. But yeah, so again, he's going to dive facing left, but that time does go left. So was able to dodge it. And just fun to see kind of what skills he's doing in sequence. I think it's gonna be a teleport right here. Oh no, this is the dash that creates those little, I don't know, dimensional slices, whatever you want to call it. I tried to stun right there and totally whiffed on it. That was pretty unfortunate. But that's the meteors in phase 2. So just kind of going through, seeing all the skills that he does. It's completely different. Phase 1, phase 2. They're trying to, there's dash, survived it. Paladin stuff. But yeah, pretty cool to see phase 2 as much as we can. A new skill right there as well. Survived that, luckily. And yeah, it just feels like it's going to be a lot of fun seeing what happens. Just people getting sniped here. But I want to talk about sort of the last talking point, the one thing we're going to try and see and test out in our future runs. So, and that is, there, I died to branding, I think, and failed. So the talking point that we want to discuss is branding, right? And so branding is sort of the one mechanic that's unique to Damien. It's not just knowing the skill rotation, right? That's one part of it, but removing branding is sort of that timer, right? If you get through 7 stacks, you're kind of getting overwhelmed. You kind of have no point of no return, right? And I talked about that. That's what happened with us in phase 1. And so we'll kind of walk through it. The one altar we really want to focus on is the black altar, especially, right? Because that's the one where, if you don't know, there's 2 altars that show up. And so it's sort of in sequence as well. The timing is pretty consistent. So you'll see white branding come up in the white altar come up in a little bit. So right here, so it's on the far right. This is the white altar. And kind of the hard part too is it's in a random spot. It's not on a person. So sometimes if we're stuck in the left corner, the altar could be in the far right corner like this, and we may not even see it, right? Because there's still more of the map that we are not seeing in this if we're stuck in one corner, right? So we don't want to deal with white altar. That only removes branding from one person. That's a waste of DPS, right? So the black altar is going to come up here around the 1 minute mark. And so this is our first opportunity to remove right there. So right here, Edward is on it. I think that's Frenchie's as well. Black altar, right? And so if you don't use the black altar, everyone gets one stack of branding. So right here, in my opinion, it's not worth it for us to use branding, right? 5 people stuck on it, kind of stuck in place, really not doing DPS, can't take any damage. They need you basically need half the team to use it to fill the gauge and to remove everyone's branding. So there's value in it, but the value here is 1 to 2 stacks, right? We're 1 to 2 stacks, and at the end of this, we're going to be 2 to 3. So we have 3 stacks, and look at the HP, right? We're about, we did about 30%, almost 40%, probably 35% HP already as it is. So we're in a good spot in the first minute. I think if we push that a little farther, get 40, 45% in the first minute, like our DPS can be better, right? First minute, we should be having pretty good peaks. There's room to improve overall looking at the meters, especially, I feel like I can improve. So everyone else definitely probably feels the same way. So I feel like there's no value in using that black altar on the first one in that first minute because we're only removing branding for 1 second. Why did that just change? 2 to 3 stacks. So we'll kind of look for the next opportunity to use the black altar, right? So there's white altar right there. I'm not going to take that one. And the thing about the black altar or the altars in general, if you take damage, you can't fill the gauge, right? So there's like a stun cooldown or whatever it is that doesn't allow you to. And so there's a black altar right there. Almost 145 in, right? So we're still at the same amount of stacks, guys. 3 out of 7 stacks, branding stacks. Now we're at 4. Some of us at 4. So is there value in it? Maybe, because now these people at 4 are going to go to 5, right? And in this instance, there's probably value, right? Because the boss is in the middle, the altar's in the far left corner. So if we say, let's go, bottom 5 DPS or whatever, go and you go use a black altar. You have a pretty small window to do it. So you want to get over there quickly, hop over rotted, land on the altar, fill the gauge, and use it. So this would have been a good opportunity because now we're at 5 stacks, about 2 minutes in, and we barely did any DPS in that second minute, right? So we're at 45 seconds later, we're not even at 50% yet. So we didn't do much damage moving forward in that time frame. So this would have been a good opportunity to use branding, right? So there's 2 options in my opinion, and it might be situational, team-based, whatever. Either one, we do more damage, right? And we sort of just brute force DPS it. And that's sort of my take. I think in my opinion, right now, phase 1, we should not be using branding. That should not be our priority. And if we do, we're not gonna clear in time. We're not gonna have enough uptime. I think in phase 1, we should just focus on min-maxing our DPS and doing as much DPS as possible so that we kind of clear phase 1 as quickly as possible without even have to worry about branding. Because look, we only have 2 branding stacks in the first 2 minutes anyway. So the next one's probably not going to come to about the 2.5 minute mark. I'll show you in a little bit. But basically, right when we hit that 7 out of 7 branding, that first time that I showed, that's when that third black altar would come up. So maybe that would still be a good opportunity because even though we got 7 out of 7 branding once, it would prevent us from having that snowball effect of more branding, right? So maybe there's 2, possibly 3. So that's the white altar. So there's 2, possibly 3 altars that we could have used to remove branding. But if we just ended up doing a little bit more damage and pushing through to 33%, so like if we're about here, 45% left, if we push through maybe that last 15% HP of Damien, because it's not a lot, right? It's not a lot. So if we just did that, we would be going through phase 2 with 9 lives, right? Instead of going 3 minutes left and I don't know what happens, right? So I don't even know where the black altar is. I think it was stuck in the far left corner because we must have missed it, right? So the white altar came up again. So I don't even know what happened. I think so. That's kind of one of the issues as well. Black altar, if it lands on a rotted, we're kind of screwed, right? So right here, 720, we get branding, and I don't even see the black altar come up on the map. It's probably in the far left corner, like I mentioned. Sometimes it can just be in a weird spot, and then white altar comes up again. So we definitely missed it. I don't see it on the map. Let me just try to run through this one more time, but I'm pretty sure. So here's white altar, right? And do we see a black altar? So he's going to do popcorn right here. I don't see a black altar. None. So yeah. So that's just kind of weird, really weird timing, really weird positioning of the altar. And that just feels like if it's just one RNG goes wrong, then we're kind of screwed. Right. So that's just my opinion. That's just our take. Things we're talking about, thinking about, looking forward to improving on next time. But let me know if you want to see more of this content. If you're interested, you maybe play PC and you have some input. Love to hear it. But that is just some things we're talking about. We definitely are excited to just be doing the content, new content, and we just hope to show our progress, hopefully help others in any way possible. And thank you for listening. I'll see you guys next time.